Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Natalie Pascarella.
And I'm David Ushery. Hello to you all. This is the first day of New York City schools switching to all remote learning. And boy, we didn't have to go far to find parents who are upset, to say the least. Many frustrated that you can still eat inside a restaurant or get your nails done right now in New York City, but kids cannot go to their classrooms. If the numbers keep going up, though, that could all change. The mayor said today it's not a matter of if, but when indoor dining and gyms will close. But that is up to Governor Cuomo. For that to happen, the state's numbers have to show the city at a 3% positivity rate for 10 days, and we aren't there yet. We've got live team coverage trying to get answers for you, starting with News 4's Andrew Siff, who's on the Upper West Side. Andrew?
David, about 1,600 public school buildings all across the city are now closed to the public, with the exception of those like this one, which serve community meals. As for when children will be back in the classrooms, at this point, no one can say. A frustrating day for public school families.
Schools are safe.
A day after learning 300,000 kids who'd been going to city classrooms won't be able to go anymore. Dozens of parents voiced their displeasure at City Hall.
We have 12,000 signatures. These are the signatures.
Dropping off one petition at the mayor's office, another a short time later at the governor's Midtown office.
Schools should close last. If people in government need to make hard decisions about what we need to do to cut back in order to stop the spread of the virus, the very last thing they should do is close the one place where the virus is not spreading.
The children who had been in classrooms from kindergarten through high school now join the majority of the city kids who'd already been learning by laptop and iPad if they had access to Wi-Fi. Mayor de Blasio today expected the pushback.
It's a tough day. It was a tough decision yesterday.
He talked about setting tough new standards to reopen schools now that the city's 7-day average COVID positivity has passed the 3% threshold he and the teachers union agreed upon. He didn't have specific answers. Other than getting a higher percentage to get COVID tests, and you mentioned the need to get consent forms, what possible tough standards are you talking about?
Andrew, we're working that through, but we want to look at geographical issues. We want to look at test positivity levels. We want to look at a lot of things.
Test my kids every day. Do it.
But city and state officials couldn't answer a question many parents raised.
My daughter can go get her nails done. She can dine indoors, but she can't go to school.
One parent said to us, my daughter can go get her nails done. She can dine indoors, but she can't go to school. That doesn't make sense. What is your response to her?
Yeah, that's the point that I raised. You didn't have to go interview a mother. You didn't have to go through all that trouble. You could have just quoted me, Andrew. You could have just run the tape of me saying the schools are safer than the surrounding community.
The governor does, however, have the authority to have stepped in and overridden the mayor's decision and kept schools open. One reason he didn't do that might be because he predicts that the rates are going to continue to go up, especially with indoor gatherings likely at the holiday season. Live on the Upper West Side, Andrew Siff, News 4 New York.
All right, Andrew, thanks for the latest there. We know that New York is expanding its coronavirus crackdown north of the city now. This includes a yellow zone in parts of Westchester County. Now, yellow zone restrictions include half capacity at houses of worship, gatherings capped at 25 people. Schools can stay open, but only with mandatory weekly testing for both students and staff. Indoor dining is allowed, and non-essential businesses are open. News 4's Mark Santia continuing our team coverage live in New Rochelle with more on this. Hi, Mark.
Hey, Natalie. In communities like Terrytown or right here in New Rochelle, newly designated yellow zones, there are questions and concerns. While business is booming here at I Got the Juice in New Rochelle,
the business has went up even more. It has doubled.
Owner Luis Rivera is hoping the new yellow zone status doesn't put the squeeze on his home life. His 2 sons are in Westchester County schools.
We have to work and we have to pay babysitting now if they don't go to school. I mean, but our main concern is our health. You know, if they have to close, they have to close.
Westchester County adding a yellow zone in New Rochelle, Ossining, Tarrytown, Yonkers, and Peekskill.
A yellow zone doesn't mean schools close, and that's a good thing, because what do we know?
We know that schools are doing a great job in making sure that community spread is not getting out of control.
In charge of White Plains School District, as well as the president of the Lower Hudson Council of School Superintendents, Dr. Joseph Ricca says the yellow zone mandates that 20% of in-school students and staff must be tested weekly. That's been planned for, and the state is willing to help schools.
They can request at no additional cost rapid tests from New York State, which will be delivered then directly to the school districts for them to be able to administer either on their own or in conjunction with a community partner.
Again, the superintendent makes a very important point. We've heard that questions from parents, from students. What exactly does a yellow zone mean? Now, just because a yellow zone, again, just because your school is in a yellow zone does not mean they automatically close. It does mean they must begin testing. We're live in New Rochelle. I'm Mark Santia, News 4 New York.
All right, thank you for sorting through that, Mark. Officials are worried about what people are going to do on Thanksgiving and then feeling the impact of that well into December. And today, the CDC flat out urged people just don't travel for the holiday. According to Johns Hopkins, the U.S. reported more than 170,000 new cases yesterday, and more than 79,000 people are in the hospital. That's more than at any other point during this pandemic. And the experts are concerned people traveling and getting together for Thanksgiving could lead to a big spike in infections over the next 4 weeks. The CDC projects there could be 7,300 new cases and 16,000 new deaths reported by December 12th.
There is simply no more important time than now for each and every American to redouble our efforts to watch our distance, wash our hands, and most importantly, wear a mask.
The CDC says about 30 to 40% of COVID-19 spread is driven by people without symptoms.
And David, in New Jersey, the virus is continuing to surge. The state now reporting more than 4,300 new cases. Today's actually the third straight day of more than 4,000 new cases. There's been another 34 deaths. Now today, with a week to go until Thanksgiving, as you mentioned, David, Governor Murphy has now issued another warning about the holidays.
Celebrate Thanksgiving just with your immediate family, low single digits, likewise for the holidays that follow. And that's a down payment, God willing, with a vaccine to a back to normal holiday season next year.
This week, the governor said New Jersey is not considering closing schools. Today, he said that the state will continue to take things on a district-by-district basis. Now, all of this as the state's second biggest city is expanding its testing in a big way. Jersey City nearly tripling its amount of city-run testing sites. News 4's Brian Thompson continuing our team coverage live in Jersey City with that, Brian.
Yeah, and here at Journal Square, this mobile testing lab behind me has had a constant flow of about 25 or 30 people all day long standing in line that has not ended. The message here in this city, get tested before Thanksgiving. Change your plans if you test positive. Testing ramping up in Jersey City as we head into the Thanksgiving holiday. 3 mobile testing sites to be expanded to 8 by next week, one in every major neighborhood of the state's second most populous city. And there's no end in sight.
As long as necessary, we're definitely going to be we're committed to doing this through Christmas and New Year's.
As everywhere across the state, the positivity rate is up 13%, about the state average, but at roughly 1,000 cases over the past month, relative to population, not as much as in Hudson County as a whole. Contact tracing suggests 3 main sources: public transportation, places of work in other towns, and New York, and box stores.
Large stores that aren't in Jersey City that people drive to from here and spend a lot of time in.
But the city is mailing out free masks to every resident, more than 1 million of them. But it is a holiday celebration that has officials on edge. Mayor Fulop admitting
people will do what people will do, and more than likely they will be inviting family members and friends into their households.
So far, police have had to issue only 1 summons for illegal gathering and have made a concerted effort to go with education and persuasion.
We try to have our quality of life task force take those jobs first. They're our most experienced at dealing with potential COVID violations.
Now, helping this all-hands-on-deck effort is the fact that many of the tests being offered next week will be rapid same-day tests. Of course, It all depends on how many people out of the 260,000 or so residents in Jersey City decide to get tested. And if those who do test positive, what will they do on the Thanksgiving holiday? Live in Jersey City, Brian Thompson, News 4 New York.
Brian, thank you. New Jersey is delaying the start of high school winter sports. Ice hockey games begin January 4th. Basketball, fencing, and bowling start January 26th. Swimming and winter track and field competition begins February 16th. And gymnastics, girls volleyball, and wrestling will start March 16th. According to the Athletic Association's chief operating officer, the staggered schedule is based on feedback from health officials, anticipated capacity limitations, and the availability of facilities. Our folks upstairs also keeping an eye on the situation in Connecticut as Governor Lamont now updates the state live. And he just announced all of Fairfield County is now under the state's red alert status. We also have an update on the state's key indicators. The state's positivity rate now at 6.5%. Hospitalizations went up again, and another 21 people in Connecticut have died. So we'll keep listening, and we'll give you an update when we learn more. Natalie?